He's here.
This is getting dangerous, and you don't see this clearly anymore.
Do you want to find Tim or not?
I really think this facility could have our answers.
We are talking The Wild Man, Skunk Ape, and this one is directed by Ryan Justice and stars Lauren Crandall as like kind of our main character, Sara. You've also got an appearance here from Michael Pare, although it's a relatively small but important role. And this is essentially a kind of Bigfoot, Sasquatch type found footage movie that has a little bit of a different kind of card to play as the movie progresses. But what is the story? So it focuses on these three documentary filmmakers who are wanting to try and uncover the truth of these disappearance of these young girls from this kind of small, rural kind of American town. And they come up with a number of different kind of theories as to what have happened. One of the theories is that there is this legendary skunk ape, this Sasquatch type creature that is reported to lurk in the area. Another is that there's this kind of loner guy who is somewhat obsessed with the kind of the skunk ape. He may well have been, you know, to blame, or it could be something else completely different. And as the film progresses, we get various kind of interviews with different locals and things like this. A trip out into the woods, and obviously we may well come face to face with the very skunk ape itself. But there may well be other forces at work here as well. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So, let's talk about it. This is a interesting movie in the fact that it's a found footage movie, but it kind of doesn't feel like a found footage movie in a lot of ways. In actual fact, I would say it's, you know, it kind of borders on not being a found footage film. The conceit that it is supposed to be a kind of documentary with handheld cameras. There's lots of kind of sequences where we have a kind of static camera, and I guess the conceit here is we're meant to believe our film crew have put a camera down and kind of then left it kind of on a kind of a tripod or something to film bog standard kind of conversations. Now, why would you do that? It doesn't really make sense in a kind of a narrative point, but it means you do get a lot more kind of steady cams and kind of static shots rather than the kind of the overuse of shaky cam here. There's also footage from many other cameras that are included that wouldn't necessarily be associated with the actual our three documentarians' cameras. So we get footage from other body cams and things like this, security cameras, stuff like that. You wouldn't necessarily have been associated with it. So it's kind of a found footage movie, but it does skirt the rules a little bit with the actual conceit of found footage. The other thing as well is there's two other things to say about this movie that makes it kind of an interesting movie in some ways. The movie is kind of comedic. It's not an out-and-out comedy, but there are some comedic moments that borders on a little bit of parody at times. Which again, the whole point of found footage to have it is to have kind of this immersive experience. Where you're believing, you don't really believe, but you kind of, you go along with it. You're watching this kind of loose footage, but here they have these little kind of like comedy moments within this movie, which again seems somewhat kind of out of place. It kind of is a little amusing, but it seems out of place. And the other thing I would say, and this is really, I think, actually an interesting and positive decision that was made. The movie drastically kind of changes direction about midway through the movie. And I'm not going to say what, 'cause I don't want to spoil it for you. But yeah, it kind of starts off very typically with a kind of a kind of creature in the woods type movie, then kind of turns into a very different sort of style of movie. And again, I don't want to spoil what that is, but you may get more than you bargain for with this one. But it's not a bait and switch. This is not, this is not one of those films where I've seen it done before. The Skunk Ape is in it, yes, so, don't worry about that. What else can I say that I think works in this movie? I think the way that this movie plot progresses, it makes for quite compelling story, I have to say. Because there is more going on here than I think a lot of found footage movies where it is just people in the woods running away, that sort of thing. So it does have actually quite a compelling story. And as we go through the movie and we kind of go into the second half, I was quite impressed with the kind of locations and the kind of the scale of the movie. I actually thought what ended up being kind of more impressive than the kind of like the tromping around the woods like you get in a lot of these kind of, again, found footage movies. So that was all pretty good. The movie has a relatively kind of high body count. It's not a particularly graphic film in any particular way, but nonetheless there is a reasonably kind of high body count, and there is I would say there's at least one moment here which was quite shocking. It happened about midway through the movie in regards to a particular character. I thought that was kind of quite good, and there's a kind of gasp out loud moment. The creature itself, there are sequences where we see in kind of like the forestry areas where I think it kind of looks quite good. They've got obviously quite a big actor to play this kind of creature, and you know, it's not just a shop bought gorilla suit and things like that. It does look has a little bit more work to it. There are other sequences where I think it's in better lighting, which I think works against the kind of the creature, and some of the you know, it kind of looks a bit fake at times, and the way the creature is also depicted in certain sequences as well. It seems a little bit too human in some ways. Again, I'll kind of just say that. The other kind of things I would say that are negative are our main character, Sara. The actress, when she kind of talks softly, tends to mumble. So I found her quite hard to hear sometimes. When she's talking at normal volume, she's fine. But there's certain scenes here where she kind of sort of whispers, or she's talking in a kind of a softer kind of tone, and she kind of mumbles. It makes it very difficult to hear the actual audio about kind of what's kind of going on. So I was a bit like, I don't know what she's saying. The acting wasn't too bad though, you know, it was just that I couldn't really hear it sometimes. Michael Pare, he's such a recognisable B-movie actor now. You know, I questioned the decision to put recognisable faces in found footage movies, because it kind of, I think they work best with unknowns, to be honest with you, because it kind of breaks that immersion. I think they're okay for standard style, you know, traditionally shot movies, but with found footage movies, if you have a recognisable actor in there, again, it sort of takes away. But, you know, Michael Pare, I think, did a decent enough job here. And we're introduced to other characters as the film progresses that I think are pretty interesting as well. And there's a few little kind of like plot twists here and there that I think, you know, keep your interest. Overall, I mean, this movie is an interesting mix. And again, I'm trying to be so vague here. Because on one hand, I think it does a good job of subverting your expectations, a phrase which is a dirty word nowadays. But when it does do that, I think it actually suffers from the weight of its own ambition. When we get into the kind of the latter half, you know, it doesn't really look... The location shooting is impressive. It's a large kind of area that it's been shot in. But considering what it's meant to be, the security is very lax. It doesn't seem to be enough personnel there. It seems a little bit easy at times. And the weird kind of tonal shifts within this movie I found a little odd. But overall, I gotta say though, I still enjoyed this movie. I found the concept of the story here interesting enough to give it this an above average mark. So, although I think this movie is flawed, it's interesting enough that it kept my attention through the movie, and I was invested to see what kind of happened. And that to me pushes us at above average. So it's a 6 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.